There was an era when motorcycles weren't designed to protect you. They were built to tempt fate. Back in the 70s and 80s, there were no electronic nannies, no polite limits, just raw engines, stripped down frames, and the nerve it took to ride them flat out. One mistake could cost you everything. But for those willing to gamble, it was the purest rush ever made on two wheels. Today, we're diving into 12 of the fastest, most fearsome machines of that wild age. Bikes that didn't just break speed records, but dared riders to stare down danger and twist the throttle harder. These weren't toys, they were challenges, built for the bold and remembered by those who survived them. Stay with us, because these legends will remind you exactly what it meant to ride when nothing held you back. Number 1. 1989. Suzuki GSXR1100. Built at the end of a decade obsessed with power, the 1989 GSXR1100 wasn't just fast, it was Suzuki's statement that they weren't backing down. Under its sleek fairings lurked a 1,127 cubic centimeter air and oil-cooled inline-4, churning out an eye-watering 143 horsepower, letting it blast beyond 170 miles per hour, a number that put fear in competitors and sometimes riders themselves. But it wasn't all brute force. Suzuki gave it a twin-spar aluminum frame, race-inspired, rigid, and lighter than most rivals, making it astonishingly stable when every sense screamed that you were going too damn fast. Oversized disc brakes fought to rein in that fury, while sharp aerodynamic bodywork cut through wind like a blade. This was no polite cruiser or weekend toy. It was built for the quarter mile, for canyon carving, for the rider willing to look danger in the eye and twist the throttle anyway. No ABS, no traction control, just raw engineering daring you to hold on. Even today, the name GSXR 1100 carries weight in every shop and garage, a nod to an era when motorcycles weren't built to flatter you, but to test you. When Suzuki didn't apologize for speed, they demanded you respect it. Number 2, 1987, Yamaha FZR1000 Genesis. This was the moment when raw speed met engineering precision, and the superbike world changed forever. Yamaha didn't just want to build another fast bike in 1987. They wanted to prove you could have blistering 135 horsepower from a 989 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled inline-4 and still trust it with your life in the corners. Their secret weapon? A pioneering 5-valve per cylinder design that delivered smooth, relentless power all the way past 150 miles per hour. But they didn't stop at the engine. The breakthrough Delta Box aluminum frame was a revolution. Race-proven, lightweight, and unbelievably rigid. It gave the FZR 1000 a level of composure that made lesser bikes feel sloppy at speed. Riders described it as telepathic, responding instantly to every lean, brake, and throttle input. Dual front disc brakes offered serious stopping force, while fully adjustable suspension let owners dial in the perfect setup whether they were hitting the track or carving mountain roads. It wasn't just about performance, it was about presence. With sharp-edged fairings, an aggressive riding stance, and that unmistakable 80s superbike silhouette, it looked as dangerous as it was. For riders back then, it felt like the future had arrived early. No compromises, no apologies, just pure, refined speed. Say FZR 1000 Genesis in any garage today and watch the nods of respect. This was the bike that didn't just chase the superbike crown, it set the standard that others had to follow. Number 3, 1986 Kawasaki GPZ1000RX. Speed wasn't just an obsession in the mid-80s, it was an arms race. Kawasaki answered with the GPZ1000RX, a machine designed to claim the title of the world's fastest production bike. Beneath its aerodynamic fairings sat a 997 cubic centimeter DOHC inline-4, producing 125 horsepower, enough to push past 165 miles per hour at a time when most rivals were still catching their breath. But Kawasaki didn't just want raw numbers. They shaped the RX in the wind tunnel, giving it sleek bodywork that cut drag and boosted high-speed stability. A solid chassis and refined suspension meant it stayed composed, even as the speedometer climbed into triple digits. This was no twitchy rocket. It was purpose-built for riders who demanded both power and confidence at full tilt. It also hinted at the future. Just a year later, the RX would be overshadowed by the lighter, more advanced Ninja ZX10, but the GPZ1000RX laid the foundation for Kawasaki's Ninja dynasty. It showed the world Japan wasn't just competing, they were leading. Even today, mention the GPZ1000RX and watch older riders smile. It wasn't just a bike. It was a promise that superbikes could be faster, sleeker, and more advanced than anyone had dared to imagine. Number 4, 1987, Honda CBR 1000F Hurricane. It was the sport bike that taught the world speed didn't have to be savage. Beneath that groundbreaking, fully enclosed one-piece fairing lay a 998 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled inline-4, delivering 132 horsepower, enough to sail past 160 miles per hour while feeling remarkably composed. Honda wasn't chasing raw aggression for its own sake. That sleek bodywork wasn't just for show. It reduced drag, calmed turbulence, and made high-speed cruising smoother than riders had ever imagined. A strong steel frame, 41mm front forks, and dual front disc brakes delivered precision handling, whether you were sweeping through mountain curves or laying down miles on the interstate. The CBR 1000F Hurricane balanced muscle with manners, offering blistering acceleration alongside comfort and stability. Riders loved that they could attack a back road in the morning and tour two up all afternoon. Even today, say Hurricane in any garage, and you'll see nods of respect. It wasn't just fast. It was Honda proving a superbike could be advanced, reliable, and welcoming without giving up the thrill that made riders fall in love with speed in the first place. Number 5, 1985, Suzuki GSXR750. No bike blurred the line between racetrack and street quite like the 1985 GSXR750. Suzuki didn't just tweak an existing design, they built a purpose-made, street-legal race machine that changed everything. At its heart was a 749 cubic centimeter inline-4, cooled by Suzuki's SACS system, delivering around 100 horsepower with relentless urgency. What really set it apart was weight, or lack of it. At just 388 pounds dry, it was shockingly light for its class, with a twin-spar aluminum frame that delivered razor-sharp handling. Riders felt every input translated immediately to the road, making them feel like factory racers, even on public streets. Dual front disc brakes gave serious stopping power, and the aggressive aerodynamic fairings weren't just stylish, they were wind tunnel tested to cut drag and improve stability at speed. It wasn't designed for comfort, it wasn't built to be easy, it was built to dominate. Riders who bought the GSXR750 didn't want compromise, they wanted performance, precision, and a bike that challenged them to be better. Even today, mention GSXR in any garage and watch older riders nod in respect. This was more than a motorcycle, it was the birth of the modern superbike, the machine that made true racing performance accessible to anyone bold enough to twist the throttle. Number 6. 1984 Honda VF1000R. Few bikes ever screamed race bred as loudly as Honda's VF1000R. This wasn't built for casual Sunday rides or polite company. It was designed to intimidate the moment you saw it. Under that aggressive, endurance-inspired fairing sat a 998 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V4, cranking out 117 horsepower, paired with gear-driven camshafts, exotic technology that delivered surgical precision, and a signature mechanical whine no chain setup could match. Honda didn't just want you to go fast, they wanted you to feel like a factory racer. Inverted front forks, rare at the time, provided razor-sharp feedback. A rigid frame and dual front disc brakes ensured it stayed composed even when you pushed harder than you had any right to on public roads. The aerodynamic bodywork wasn't cosmetic. It kept the bike stable at speeds that would rattle lesser machines. The VF1000R wasn't cheap, wasn't easy, and wasn't meant for everyone. It demanded commitment and respect from its rider. But for those willing to rise to the challenge, it delivered an authentic slice of Honda's racing pedigree, unfiltered and unapologetic. Even now, mention VF1000R in any old-school garage, and you'll get nods of respect for a bike that brought real track technology to the street. Number 7. 1983 Kawasaki GPZ11000. Nothing captured early 80s street attitude like Kawasaki's big bad GPZ11000. Built to look mean and go even meaner, it wasn't subtle, it was a rolling warning sign. Tucked under its muscular styling was a 1,089 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline 4 pushing 120 horsepower, enough to break 140 miles per hour when most bikes were still dreaming about it. But the real headline was electronic fuel injection, one of the first production systems ever, making fueling crisper and more reliable than any carburetor. It looked ready to pick a fight at every stoplight, with its broad stance and aerodynamic fairing giving that unmistakable 80s superbike silhouette. Upgraded front forks and dual front disc brakes delivered serious stopping power, keeping all that speed in check when things got dicey. Riders loved it because it didn't pretend to be refined. It was Kawasaki's promise that the street belonged to those bold enough to take it. While the later GPZ900R Ninja grabbed the spotlight, the GPZ1100 laid the groundwork. It showed Kawasaki wasn't just chasing power, but pushing technology forward. Even now, mention GPZ1100 in an old-school shop, and you'll get knowing smiles from riders who remember when being a street machine meant muscle, attitude, and real innovation. Number 8. 1979 Honda CBX1000. If the early superbike era was a contest of who could shock the world most, Honda didn't just play along. They redefined the rules with the 1979 CBX1000. This wasn't some modest inline 4. It was a jaw-dropping six-cylinder, 1,047 cubic centimeter masterpiece, producing 105 horsepower. But stats only told half the story. Twist the throttle and you'd hear a sound more at home on a Formula One grid than a city street, a high-pitched, screaming symphony that announced your arrival long before you appeared. This bike wasn't built to be practical, it was Honda's engineering flex, proof they could deliver something no one else dared. The width of that engine was legendary, forcing riders to adjust their riding style, but rewarded them with a smoothness and power band unlike anything else on two wheels. Advanced suspension and triple disc brakes worked to tame its heft, offering handling that defied its size. Styling was pure late 70s muscle. Chrome pipes snaking from 6 headers, a massive tank, and a stance that said, "Challenge accepted." Even today, the CBX1000 stands as a mechanical marvel, a bike that wasn't just about speed, but spectacle. Mention it in any garage and watch older riders smile. They remember the moment Honda proved that in the superbike wars, they could make art raw. Number 9, 1976. Lavada Jota. Italian bikes have always had a reputation for passion, but the 1976 Lavada Jota was raw, uncompromising proof that Italy could also deliver brute force with character to match. Born from endurance racing DNA, the Jota took that track-honed engineering and made it street legal. Barely. Its 981 cubic centimeter air-cooled triple cranked out between 90 and 100 horsepower, delivering a claimed 140 miles per hour top speed that turned heads and humbled rivals in the mid-70s. But this wasn't just about speed. The Jota was famed for its unfiltered riding experience. Brembo brakes, a rigid frame, and stiff suspension kept it planted when you dared to push it, while the engine delivered a unique, loping exhaust note that was unmistakably Italian. Riders loved it because it felt alive, vibrating, snarling, and demanding your full attention. It wasn't smooth or polite. It was a challenge. Styling was equally bold. Low clip-on bars, bright metallic paint, and that classic endurance racer stance made sure no one mistook it for anything but serious business. Even today, mention Lavada Jota in classic bike circles, and you'll see eyes light up. It wasn't just a fast bike, it was a defiant statement that performance could have soul, attitude, and a whole lot of Italian swagger. Number 10, 1972. Ducati 750 Super Sport. Few motorcycles have ever worn their racing heritage so proudly as the 1972 Ducati 750 Super Sport. This was no mass-market machine. It was bred on the track at Imola, where Ducati's underdog victory became legend. Power came from a 748 cubic centimeter air-cooled L-twin, delivering 73 horsepower. But its real magic lay in Ducati's desmodromic valve system. That innovative design offered unmatched valve control at high RPMs, producing a crisp, snarling exhaust note that was unmistakably Italian. Every detail was purpose-built. Low clip-on handlebars, a solo racing seat, and minimalist bodywork forced riders into a committed, aggressive posture. It wasn't comfortable, but it was honest. You felt every vibration, every surge of power, and every ounce of connection to the road. Visually, it was classic yet fierce. A teardrop fuel tank, slim lines, and just enough polished metal to catch the eye without being flashy. Riders didn't choose the 750 Super Sport for ease. They chose it for the raw, unfiltered experience of riding a machine that made no compromises. Even now, mention Ducati 750 SS and watch enthusiasts nod in respect, remembering the bike that proved racing DNA and Italian artistry could live and breathe on the open road. Number 11, 1975, BMW R90S. Some bikes didn't just chase speed, they redefined what performance could look like. The 1975 BMW R90S was a perfect example of German engineering blending precision, style, and surprising aggression. Powered by an 898 cubic centimeter air-cooled boxer twin, making 67 horsepower, it wasn't the most powerful on paper, but it delivered its speed with a smooth, effortless authority that made rivals take notice. The R90S wore its sophistication proudly. Designed by Hans Muth, it featured one of the first factory-installed fairings, a wind-cheating piece that looked as good as it performed. Distinctive smoke fade paint, a sculpted tank, and a comfortable yet sporty riding position made it stand out in any lineup. But it wasn't just pretty. It won the Daytona 200 in 1976, proving this wasn't a touring bike pretending to be fast. It was the real deal. Handling was classic BMW. Low center of gravity, stable at high speed, and deceptively nimble through sweeping curves. Riders loved its reliability, its balanced feel, and the sense that it would carry you across continents without breaking a sweat. Mention the R90S in any garage today, and you'll see knowing nods. It remains the bike that showed performance didn't have to shout. It could arrive with calm confidence and still leave the competition in the dust. Number 12, 1973, Honda CB750. Few motorcycles have earned the title of game changer, quite like the 1973 Honda CB750. While its 736 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline-4 produced a respectable 67 horsepower, its true legacy wasn't just in numbers, but in rewriting the rules of what a motorcycle could be. This was the bike that took superbike performance from exotic, expensive machinery and made it accessible to everyday riders everywhere. It was packed with innovations unheard of at its price point. The front disc brake was a first for mass-market bikes, offering stopping power that left drum setups in the dust. An electric starter and smooth, reliable power delivery meant it wasn't just fast, it was easy to live with, something unheard of in the era of temperamental high-performance machines. Visually, it struck a perfect balance. Exposed engine, showing off 4 gleaming headers, a sculpted tank, and classic gauges that made every ride feel special. Riders loved how it could handle long highway cruises and still deliver that satisfying surge when you twisted the throttle. Even today, mention the CB750, and you'll see respect in every rider's eyes. It wasn't just Honda's triumph, it was the motorcycle that democratized speed, comfort, and reliability, setting the standard for generations of superbikes to follow. These motorcycles weren't just steel and engines, they were proof of a time when people dared to dream bigger and ride harder. From the howl of 6 cylinders to groundbreaking race technology on the street, each bike was a challenge to limits and an invitation to true freedom. They weren't built to play it safe. They were built to remind us what it feels like to be alive. Which of these legends captured your imagination? Do you have memories, stories, or even old photos of your own two-wheeled adventures? Share them with us in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss more deep dives into motorcycle history, engineering marvels, and the unforgettable machines that made us all fall in love with the open road.